39, part 3 of Kenya's premier sports video podcast, the Three Quarters podcast. As we are number one supporters of the Kenya Sambas, we'd like to urge you to support them by jumping onto the hashtag Road to Japan, as they are still looking to qualify for the Rugby World Cup in 2019. I'm Demima Duffield.
This is Ngashi, official noisemaker.
Jeringus Kanyana.
So in part 3, we talk about sports other than rugby, because there is life outside of rugby. For some, yes, a little life.
I like that, a little life. Yeah.
So we start off with politics in the Olympics, the National Olympic Committee of Kenya.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that this is happening in the sports scene. It's still happening in the sports scene in Kenya. It's pitting two legends of track in Kenya, Kipchoge Keino and Paul Targat. Of course, Paul Targat was running unopposed. But it can only result in bad things for athletes. Whenever you have this turmoil and unsettled people in the federations that run our sports in the country, it'll always manifest on the athletes, because in terms of the preparedness for some competitions, we saw that happening. It was very evident before the IAAF World Championships. So it's not a good thing. As we keep on saying, we need to move these sideshows away from the running of sports.
Yeah. I was wondering the reason for the elections being postponed. Some federations like the likes of Taekwondo, badminton, were being locked out from the elections. Because the reason given was that they don't have certificates of registration. So how have they been operating all this time?
True.
Or maybe it's someone just trying to block someone else from voting for the preferred candidates. So we need to just, as you said, put that aside and let the game grow. Yeah. Let's not have problems that we had when we went to Rio. Guys even stealing kits and things like that. So yeah, we need to change that.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, you've got to put sport first. No matter which sport it is, you've got to put sport first. Whether there's money, whether there isn't money. But now on to football. Talking Premier League.
Yeah, still the Premiership. Yeah. So we had week 4 wrap up of the English Premier League. Of course, the shocking result of the weekend: Manchester City beating Liverpool 5-0 at the Etihad. Leicester City lost to Chelsea 2-1. N'Golo Kante and Morata getting the goals for Chelsea. Everton lost 0-3 to Tottenham at Goodison Park. Stoke drew with Manchester United, I beg your pardon, 2-2. Arsenal beat Bournemouth at the Emirates 3-0. Southampton lost to Watford 2-0. Brighton beat West Brom 3-1. Burnley beat Crystal Palace 1-0, and Swansea lost to Newcastle in Cardiff 1-0.
All right, and still on football.
Yeah.
Premier League clubs vote to close the transfer window before game start.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think it would be a good idea to do that. However, what they're doing is it's only within the Premier League. Trades can still go on, but with other clubs. Let's say, I of the Premier League would like to sell to a La Liga team from La Liga, that can happen, but I cannot buy. Yeah, it would be good for teams to get their houses in order as early as possible. Once the season ends and the transfer window is open, let guys start buying their players then. Let them gel, build some team spirit, some team chemistry, work on that as early as, especially Arsenal. We always leave it to the last minute. We always leave it to the last minute, so I'd like to see that happen. I'd like to see Arsene Wenger buying his players as early as possible. Let them get used to playing with the teammates. So it's a good thing, I believe.
I'd like to dwell on the negative part of this. As Ngus has aptly put it, you can sell, but you can't buy. So by Thursday 5 p.m., the Thursday before the starting game of the English Premier League, you cannot bring in new players. What this does then is that it opens you up. It opens the English clubs to the foreign market being the rest of Europe. They can still come and buy your players, right? You can't buy, then they can come and buy your players. Therefore, you have a situation where the English clubs are unable to replace the talent that they have lost. And I think that's what's going to create a problem for England. And I don't see that lasting for a while, because I'm seeing a situation, if let's say, I'll use Arsenal in case, if I come and buy Sanchez and Ozil, then you can't replace these guys.
But gosh, don't you think it's a way you guys need to be prepared for this before the season? If you need to up their salaries and new contracts, do it as early as possible.
Well, I want to be given an option to replace someone if he goes. You see, because guys can just wake up. I'll give you a case like Robin van Persie. He just woke up and said, look, I don't want to be here. And the next thing, it was Ferguson calling Wenger. So it can happen, you know. So I want to be given the chance to be able to replace someone should they leave.
All right, well, that's that with football. I think I've had enough now. Let's move on to tennis.
Yeah.
All right, US Open, winners, losers, and the fact that Federer... I'll let you say the rest. I'll let you say the rest.
Yeah, we had Roger Federer being knocked out the quarters. Yeah, it was sad that I would have liked to see him go on to win. I think what would have been his 20th Grand Slam. Yeah, but the eventual winner was Rafael Nadal, winning his 16th Grand Slam. It's quite impressive. He's at 31 and coming back from an injury. It was quite impressive what he did, managing to win it and make it its 16th title, which was quite impressive.
I want to start by explaining what the Grand Slams are. So these are the 4 major tennis championships that happen in a year. You start with the Australia Open, you move to Roland Garros, which is the French Open, and then you have the Wimbledon, which happens, of course, in Wimbledon, in London. And you have the US Open that happens at the Flushing Meadows in New York. So Nadal has won 2 this year. He's the king of the clay court, so Roland Garros, which is a clay court, and of course hard court US Open. I think, as Ngusa said, it's very good for him to come back from injury and win his 16th Grand Slam. But however, the biggest topic during the US Open has been the win of Sloane Stephens. Yes. She's the one who won the women's single. She beat Madison Keys in the final, and she's the first woman of color to win outside the Williams sisters. Yes. The last time actually you had an All-American final in the tennis women's single was in 2002 when the Williams sisters were pitted against each other. So anyway, when the rankings are released by ATP, Association of Tennis, Professional Tennis, I'm sure that Sloane Stephens will have climbed a few ranks high. And she was, by then she was a shocker for most guys. So.
And she's a young talent.
And she's a young talent. So we just have to wait and see how her career is going to pan
Now
out.
I've got to watch. You guys saying young talent, young talent. All right, so we move on to basketball. The Naismith Hall of Fame class of 2007 was inducted this past weekend.
2007 or
Oh
2017?
my word! No, this is why I have you here. This is why I have you here. Yes. So names to note: Jerry Cross and Tracy McGrady.
McGrady, yeah.
Yes.
I'll start with Jerry Cross because not too many people know who Jerry Cross is. Jerry Cross was the architect of the Chicago Bulls dynasty that happened in the 90s. I remember watching when Chicago Bulls owner Jerry Reinsdorf was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2016, and he was giving a brief description of what Cross did. He said that Cross came in, he was a 5'7" guy, out of shape. So he wondered what this guy was going to come and do. He was a scout. I think he used to work with the Chicago White Sox baseball. Baseball, I beg your pardon. And he came in, and the only player he did not build in the Chicago Bulls dynasty was Michael Jordan, who had already been drafted. He's the one who drafted Scottie Pippen. He's the one who brought Phil Jackson as coach. He moved Doug Collins as coach. Horace Grant, Bill Cartwright. That was the first three-peat. Then the second three-peat, when American clubs were American basketball teams were beginning to discover the gems outside the US. He brought in Tony Kukoc from Croatia, and of course Dennis Rodman for the second three-peat. So he was the architect of the Bulls dynasty that dominated the basketball scene in the 90s. And I think it was only right that Jerry Cross be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Unfortunately, he passed on early this year, and he was not there to receive this. Tracy McGrady, I just say one thing about him. When Kobe Bryant retired, I remember watching a talk he had with Jimmy Kimmel, and he was asked who was the toughest player to guard, and he said that his toughest player to guard was Tracy McGrady. That's Kobe Bryant talking about you, that you're the hardest player he had to guard. There was a story about him joining the Bulls when he was going to be drafted, and he had actually trained with the Chicago Bulls to join, and they wanted to trade Pippen, but Michael Jordan vetoed that move. But anyway, Tracy McGrady was a very entertaining person. His dunks when he was in Toronto with Vince Carter, then he moved to Orlando Magic, and of course subsequently finishing up at Houston Rockets with the Yao Ming. I just remember the game he dropped 13 points, I think in 36 seconds versus the San Antonio Stars. So yes, I think despite the fact he did not win an NBA championship, I think he does deserve to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I agree with you, Marsh. I think I'd mentioned what you mentioned, even Vince Carter, their cousins apparently. Tracy McGrady and Vince Carter cousins. I think he was all-rounded. The guy could shoot from the perimeter. He could drive in ball, and his dunks.
Yeah.
Dunks, of course. Quite some good stuff. And then on Jerry Cross, I remember there's a quote that he said that it's not the team that wins the championship, it's an organization.
Yeah.
I think it has been misquoted quite a lot. But then again, he was a bit right. It's not just the team, there's the backroom staff and the works. So yeah, they are rightfully so greats of the basketball game.
Okay, well, just to wrap it up, we are on to our bonus segment, and the question is, will Kenya be ready to host the African Nations Championship come 2018 January? What do you think?
I'll let Gus go first.
Well, I can only hope that we can be able to host this tournament, because the last time we had the big tournament was back in, apart from IAAF, that happened recently, but a continental one, I think, was back in 1987.
Yes.
Some of us are not even born. The All African Games, where about around 42 countries participated, and Kenya was second in the football tournament.
Shocking.
So I can only hope that the government can get the organization right, especially the venues. Right now, we only have Kasarani that is ready. When the inspectors were coming to the country, they had to postpone the inspection, first of all because of the political atmosphere that Kenya was undergoing, of course because of the election. But now that the elections again has been postponed, we have not postponed. We are having a fresh election. But now I can only hope that these guys can continue doing the work, leave the political side, on the political bit of it on the side. Let's continue building the stadiums. We're supposed to have a stadium in Machakos, Mombasa, Nairobi, too. That's Nyayo Stadium and Kasarani. And then Eldoret. I had a story about Eldoret. Yeah, we need to get our work done by the time these guys come to inspect. Let's have something to show. Be proud, because even in '87 we still had such problems for having venues not yet completed. So yeah, can only hope that the government puts in a lot of work.
That's why I normally disagree when it comes to issues of mismanagement in sports. I don't know why we're still talking about government being involved. For me, government is to set the legislation that's going to bolster sports. I think these federations normally escape a lot when such things happen because they always peg it on the government. Now, boils down to what we've come to talking about mismanagement in sports. Number one, when you put together your bid in 2013 to host CHAN, what's normally known as CHAN, 2018, and you won the bid in 2013, what the hell have you been doing for 5 years? As FKF, what the hell have you been doing for 5 years? That's my first question. My second question, you cannot pass it over to the government and say that, look, these things have not been done. Do you even have a local organizing committee to do these things? We have not heard about this CHAN the hosting of CHAN until when CAF came and said that, hey, look, guys, we are going to be withdrawing these things from you. And by the way, I don't think we are going to be hosting this thing. I'll be honest with you. I think this thing is either going to Morocco. It's Morocco, Cote d'Ivoire, and another third country. I can't remember. A third country I can't remember. It's going to go to either of those countries. So look, to be honest, this thing of passing the buck to government, we need to stop. We need to take the buck stops with FKF. FKF had put this bid together in 2013. This thing should have been done by now. It cannot be taking 5 years. Then when it's figuring at the penultimate time, so you start saying, government haven't. Come on, that's nonsense.
Where does the money come from?
My point is that it was put in 2013. That's when you put the plan in 2013.
Doing things last
Why
minute.
are we doing things last minute? Do you have to wait for 5 years to build what stadium is that? Colosseum or what? Anyway, I can continue spewing because of my feelings on this mismanagement, but
passionate.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to host.
Well, the PS of Sports said that we'll be ready, so we can only hope that he's not lying to us. It's not
PR.
Yeah, it's not just PR.
Yeah.
Well, I think one thing that everyone needs to remember is at the end of the day, you are a brand ambassador for your country. So that goes, before anything else. All right, guys, thank you for following us. Remember, you can find us on Instagram by following us. You can also like our page on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Tell a friend to tell a friend. I'm Jamina Duffield.
This is Ngashi, official noisemaker.
Jerry Goose, Kenyana.
See you next week for episode 40.
Bye.
I said,